Hey, it's time for another edition of Why Are You Awake? Paul Farahvar, your host. This week we have comedian Katie Kincaid. Check her out. Go check her out online. Check out her Instagram. And also check out my Instagram. Check out my upcoming dates at paulfcomedy.com. All the information about my shows will be there. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also subscribe and follow me on Instagram. And if you're listening to this, wherever you're listening, go over and watch it on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/paulfcomedy. Also, check out our sponsor. As some of you know, I used to be a practicing lawyer in Chicago. I no longer practice, but from time to time, I need a lawyer. And when I need a lawyer, I call my friend Scott Shapiro. Scott Shapiro has been practicing law for over 25 years in Chicago. He does it all, from workers' compensation to personal injury, employment issues, and even entertainment law and contract needs. If you need a lawyer, call my friend Scott. 312-648-8800. That's 312-648-8800. Or you can email him at scott@scottshapirolegal.com. Tell him I sent you. You're welcome. You love sex. Everyone does. Have you ever used sex toys? Ever wanted to? Or you just feel weird about the whole thing? Well, Love Shop Toys has been in the business of destigmatizing sex toys for years, 20 years. You want a sex toy? Go to loveshoptoys.com and check out their huge variety of options. Whether you're straight, gay, trans, whatever you're into, Love Shop Toys has something for you. And if you're uncomfortable about it, guess what? They send things discreetly so no one has to know about whatever you're into. And even if you're not very active in the sex toy business, check it out. loveshoptoys.com. They send you everything, and it's free shipping for everything over $69. In addition to the free shipping, if you use the code AWAKE69, you get 20% off your whole purchase. That's right, AWAKE69. Go to loveshoptoys.com/awake69 right now and get your stuff. Get your toys. Have some fun. You're welcome. Your family's going to see this.
No, they won't. My mom doesn't listen to podcasts.
I don't want anything to come out. Obviously, I'll protect you as much as I can as a lawyer, if you're talking about breaking laws and shit. But other than that,
you know me, Katie breaking laws Kincaid.
I don't know you. That's why I'm excited for this podcast. I don't know anything about you. So it'll be fun. Well, fuck it. We just started. This podcast is real fun. I don't even know this person that well. First of all, introduce comedian Katie Kincaid. Hi, Katie.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Katie Kincaid.
Katie, I heard about you from multiple people because I needed to book. I had something where I needed someone.
Was it the pizza show?
I don't know. Maybe it was the pizza show. Yeah,
that's how I associate it.
I remember it was something, and then your name came up twice. I was like, perfect. And then I forgot about it. I just booked it without. I just whatever. And then I went to see you do roast battle, and then I was like, oh my god, she's so mean.
I try not
to. You guys are
only
so
on that
mean.
stage. Only on that stage.
I was so uncomfortable, and I talk to Justin about this all the time, but every time I'm in the back, I'm just like, that was so rude. That's all
it's working.
Especially if I don't know the comedians, because I feel bad. I don't know I know that you guys meet before and all that stuff to see what's on and off, but I still feel like it hurts. No?
I guess from an outside view, when you're watching it, and that's the only exposure you've had of that person, you're like, oh my God, they're terrible.
Yeah.
But no, usually my favorite roast battles are the ones where I've roasted friends, and we're kind of you can tell we're having fun on stage. If you don't know the person that well, I've done I did the tournament last year. That's kind of how I got into the roast battle scene here. It's more fun when you can take somebody that you know a lot about and kind of poke fun at each other.
I heard you guys do a pre-interview with each other to be like, hey, these are the things that people, if you don't know them, and then you say these are things that are off limits.
Yeah.
Have you had people hit your off limits stuff, or have you seen it?
No one's ever really said anything that's that's really like struck a chord with me. There have been a couple times where people have roasted me about something where I wasn't aware of that. Apparently I have a big forehead. Didn't know that was a thing until multiple people commented on it. Okay. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I have a big forehead. But
there were times and I've only seen roast battle live a few times, and when I do, I'm just so uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've been asked to be, which means people have wanted to roast me, and I'm like, absolutely not. I'm never gonna fucking do that.
It's either you love it or you hate it kind of thing.
Were you just either, if you're really good at it, my thought is that you were awkward some way in high school or younger, or you have a lot of brothers that were older that beat the shit out of you?
No, I was the first one. I was an awkward kid.
Okay.
For sure. It's funny because with roast battle, the joke writing is, it's still joke writing, but it's like short kind of like quips. And I found myself, because I did like improv growing up, hence being like the awkward kid in high school.
Sure.
And I feel like I did a lot of short form, which is kind of like what you would see on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And there are types of improv games that are called like backline games, where you're like literally thinking of just jokes on the spot based off of like a suggestion. Mm-hmm. And I felt myself kind of like using that muscle a lot with roast battle. And that's how it kind of came, because sometimes people like have a hard time with it. And I definitely have had moments where I'm like, I have no idea what to say to this person. But with majority of my roasts, I feel like that improv experience of just kind of like hooking a quick joke is what really kind of like helped me a lot. Right.
I was awkward too, and I'm really good at making fun of people, and I was really mean to people that were mean to me, but I need them to attack me first.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it that I don't understand. But for me, I think I can come up with stuff. In fact, I've helped people that were like, what should I say about this? I'm like, let me tell you what I know about let me tell you what I know about Joe.
It's fun to write roast behind the scenes
where I don't have to do. But the thing that I think that I wouldn't be able to hide, because I'm really I'm really bad at being fake. So I would, if something hurt me, I'd be like, oh, that was so mean. Like, how do you take all that fucking beating? When you first heard someone say something about your forehead, were you like, what the fuck?
I think like with roast battle specifically, like I know it's all kind of just like it's just heightened insanity. Like, so when I hear people say things about me like on the actual roast battle stage, like that, it doesn't like affect me at all. I'm just like, oh, that was like the joke that they wrote based off of like whatever they pulled from my either parents or things I've done or grown up doing. What really sucks though, and it's kind of like the double-edged sword, is sometimes it's like the comments online can like not be that great.
Don't read the comments.
Don't read the comments. I've learned that. Sometimes they're like, oh, like she destroyed him, blah blah blah. But then if I've had some that have gone the other way, where people just are ruthless, because it does attract a certain like audience.
Well, yeah, any comments. I remember once I was like, wow, this one's blowing up. I had my first video that went really viral, for lack of a better word. I was like, oh, everything's so nice. And then I realized that Instagram was hiding the mean ones. And then I read all those. Sometimes they hide them. And I'm like, oh, let's see what these say. I was like, oh my God, they're so mean.
Let's keep that hidden.
I respond to everything. I'm just like, I'll do better next time. When they're like, you're not funny. I'm like, I'll do better. Sorry,
thanks,
Bob.
Dad.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad. So you said that you were awkward as a kid. Let's talk about that. Where were you doing improv?
I started improv in high school, and like
Where'd you grow up?
Lebanon, Indiana.
Okay.
Or Lebanon, Indiana. Whatever way you want to say it. But
how do you say it?
My hometown, everyone says it Lebanon. I think that's just like
it's spelled Lebanon.
It's spelled Lebanon. It should be pronounced Lebanon, but these are like, it's central Indiana people from a small hometown, so they just kind of like Lebanon.
Yeah.
But I remember one of my friends had like invited me to it's called comedy sports. They had like a high school league. There's comedy sports. They're like all over the US, and then they have high school leagues where different high schools would like face each other, and I didn't know what it was. I remember I grew up watching Whose Line Is It Anyway, and she invited me to that her practice for comedy sports, and I still remember the moment of like watching them do like improv games and being like, get me on that stage, because I was like a theater kid, and I liked comedy. I liked being funny, and so that was like my first intro to just like comedy in general. And I went from high school, I did it in college, and then after college, I did comedy sports in Indianapolis, and then I loved it so much that's the reason why I moved to Chicago, was to pursue like IO in Second City, and then.
Right. Let's talk about high school again. So you grew up in Lebanon, and you were a theater kid. How big was your high school?
I think my graduating class was like less than 300 people.
Oh, that's bigger than I anticipated.
Yeah, it's like, it's not huge, but it's not small. Like,
but you had enough people to do a play.
Yeah, and our plays were really interesting because I didn't do the musicals. Okay. Because I had it I never took choir as a kid, and in my brain I'm like, I guess I just can't do the musicals. I can't sing, even though I probably could have done it. So I just did the plays, and I loved our theater teacher, our director. She was one of like my favorite people in the entire world, still is. But some of the plays that we did, like super serious plays. Like she just was like a real, like, we're going to create art. And the first play we ever did was one that her friend wrote called Voices. And I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember it involved like struggles within like an African-American community. And I'm from Lebanon, Indiana.
All white, right?
She like pulled all the kids who were not white to be involved in this play, which is
not even theater kids.
Not even theater kids.
They're like, hey, walking down the hall.
Yeah, it's like, we need to tell this story, which like it was like kind of crazy looking back, but like I loved, she definitely was one to like elevate voices of people of color, even especially like in Lebanon, Indiana, which is not very common.
Not very colorful. Not
very colorful. I think it's better now, but like back when I was living there, it was very white. But I remember like that was like the first play we did. And then the second play we did was called I Never Saw Another Butterfly, which is about a Jewish girl in a Nazi concentration camp.
These are fucking heavy topics for high school.
It was. And like the audiences would come, but they're like parents of the high school kids. So they come like, oh, it's going to be a fun play. And
were your parents ever like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh, yeah.
That's not, yeah. What about like, yeah, I don't know. There's got to be plays that are a little less heavy.
My senior year, we ended up doing Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is like a comedic play. But it's funny because I never got cast in a role with a person who had a name. I always was like child number 5.
Really?
Yeah. Even I remember going.
So you weren't good at it?
No, I wasn't. I was not. I was
but
like.
You liked it.
I was the worst kind of theater kid. I was obsessed with theater, but I was bad at it.
I just can't see that. I would think that in Lebanon you would elevate to the top.
I think I was good at comedy, so I was good at improv and comedy sports.
Just
but
not the heavy stuff.
Not the heavy stuff. Yeah,
well, you couldn't
annoying.
be the main character in the voices. I assume no. They weren't doing blackface at Lebanon anymore.
No, thank God. Yeah, and my theater teacher, I think she did feel bad because she made me student director my senior year because I didn't get cast in like a main role.
Student director being like manager?
No, I took attendance. Like that was that was me being student director.
Of the theater?
Like of like play practice. I would have like an attendance sheet and be like, okay, everyone's here. And she's like, thank you, student director.
Wow. And that still made you want to, you still wanted to do improv after that.
Oh yeah, I was obsessed. I was drinking the Kool-Aid for sure. So
as a theater kid, were your friends all theater kids too? Or were you like, you guys all nerding out playing Zip Zap Zop in the corner?
I had a lot of theater friends. It was a mixture of theater friends and then youth group kids.
What's a youth? You mean like
church kids?
Oh,
I was,
Young Life or no? Was it Young Life? I was in Young Life. I don't know.
No, it was just like my local small church.
Was your family religious?
And here's the crazy thing. My parents weren't religious. It was just me.
Okay. Explain that.
I grew up like, my parents, like, I remember early on when I was like a baby, my parents brought me to church, but then they were like, oh, we want to have a better Sunday. So they stopped going. And then when I got to high school, the friends that I made were like theater kids and then these like church kids. So I would go to youth group with them and I would go to like church camp and I went to all these like church conferences.
For Jesus or because it was social?
I think mostly because it was social.
Okay.
But I was like, I remember going to church camp every year and then we'd have like those, kumbaya around like the fire pit with the guitar. And I remember we'd have to like step forward with something like profound to say. And I remember standing up and being like, I'm just so sad that my parents are not going to accept Jesus into their heart and they're going to go to hell. And then they were like, they probably will.
Were you acting or were you like serious?
I really felt it. I remember one time there was another moment at church camp, but they were like, we left like one of the sermons and they were like, walk through the path and open up your hand, and as if God or Jesus is holding your hand with you. And I remember walking through the forest being like, I can feel him in my hand. I'm like, this is probably just like a light breeze or something.
See, that's pretty crazy. For me to understand, I started going to Young Life, and my parents were not Christian.
Is Young Life like...
It's a Christian group.
It's a Christian group.
But the only reason I went is because it was on Wednesday, and it was another night we can go drink. And my parents like, oh, he's learning about Jesus. It can't hurt him. And they weren't very religious. Partying? Yeah, we were just partying and chewing tobacco. And then they let us drink at this thing because they're older guys. They were like in their 20s. And we were like, 17. And we were like, they let us drink on Wednesday. But that's the only reason. And I remember they would talk about Jesus, and I'm like, man, I'm Jewish. I'm not going to get in here at all. And I never had to do anything. I think they knew that I was like, he's just here for the drinks.
For the vibes, yeah. You're like, accept Jesus into your heart, but do this keg stand too.
Right. Well, we weren't like partying. We're like, it was like, don't ask, don't tell, what's in the cup type of thing. Speaking of don't ask, don't tell, let's talk about that. So when did you realize you're gay? In Lebanon.
I am?
Yeah. Well, you talk about it on stage. Yeah. So like, was that something that you knew growing up, or was it like as you grew older, or how did you deal with that in fucking Lebanon?
I remember growing up, I was kind of like a late bloomer and everything. So like, I didn't even like, all my friends were like talking about like boys they had crushes on. I remember being like, I remember having a moment in one of my classes.
Is this high school?
This is late middle school.
Oh, okay.
And I remember like all my friends would talk about like all their crushes they would have on. I just didn't feel anything for anyone. And I remember being there like, am I gay? Like, I don't think so. And then I was like, well, probably not. Then I started like developing crushes on, some guys in class. And I was never like pursued growing up. I didn't have like a boyfriend until like a real boyfriend until college.
Because of the forehead?
Because of the forehead, yeah. They're like, there's two, like, my eyes are down here, okay? And so like when I got to college, I started getting all this male attention, and so I was like, oh my god. And then I kind of like went crazy.
Late bloomer. So let me ask, in high school were you awkward looking at all, or thicker? What was the issue?
It's funny because like I remember feeling fat in high school, and like, not that obviously like, no, that's a bad thing at all, but like I just remember being self-conscious as a teen. But like looking back on pictures, you're like, I wasn't fat. Yeah. I was just like a normal
just
kid.
Insecure.
Yeah. And
so you get to college, you're like a late bloomer. People are starting to notice you. Guys are noticing you.
And I start, dating guys. And then it wasn't until honestly, like after I got out of college, I don't even remember. I remember like looking back, definitely having crushes on people, like girls, but I didn't, because like growing up in Indiana, like I only knew 2 gay people in my high school, and they were like, it was like the butchiest butch lesbian you could possibly imagine, and like the most flamboyant gay man. It was like, those were the spectrums. Right. And there was never like anyone like in between kind of. It wasn't until after college where I just remember like, I was on Bumble and I was like, I'm going to put girls on. I don't even remember the moment.
Sure.
And then like, that's when I started like entertaining the idea, but then I get kind of like freaked out and be like, nah, I don't think that's... Because of Jesus. Yeah. He's like, we held hands.
Don't you remember what we said? You're going with your parents.
Yeah. Jesus was always in the back of my head. And then when I moved to Chicago like 6 years ago, I dated a guy for a long time, and then like we dated for probably too long, and then I remember when we were breaking up, I was like, I think like I might be like bisexual or gay or something, and he's like, you should explore that because that would make a lot of sense in our relationship. And then since then I have, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes
So how long were you dating that guy in Chicago?
I dated him for like about almost 3 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of my girlfriends have later come out as either lesbian or bisexual. And I'm always like, when did you know, like when you were dating this guy, did he say it was obvious to him?
Yeah, we weren't very physical. Right. And like, I still like, I mean, I still consider myself bisexual, even though I definitely lean like more towards women. But I think like I was just like struggling with like attraction. And then when we broke up, that's when I started dating women more. And then was like, that was a whole other like
eye-opening
like discovery, because I think a lot of like women who are especially like in the realm of bisexual or pansexual, or like they don't like specifically like align with like I only like this type of person. It's kind of hard because you're like, well, is this real? Like you feel like your queerness really isn't like validated by it. Like by,
what do you mean?
So, I mean, I feel like a lot of times like there is people who are bisexual or like, oh, you're just saying that, or, you know, it's just a phase or something, and they're not taken as like seriously with their queerness. And that's something that I definitely like struggled with. And I felt like for the longest time I couldn't put a label on myself because I didn't want to like take away space from somebody else who is like, oh, is like more quote unquote more gay than me.
How would you be taking away space?
I don't know. That was like what my brain was. Yeah. And I remember when I finally like came out, like, and like talked about it more and started to like actually date women, I kind of like shed that and was able to like kind of more fully embrace it. And like a lot of my stand up is about that. Yeah. So it's,
well, that's good. It's what's happening to you right now. It is a journey.
Yeah. Are you gay?
Am I not? I feel like
just a great haircut.
I just dress really nice, but thank you. No, I wish I could be sometimes, but doesn't work for me. Going back to your college time, were you? What did you major in, by the way?
I majored in telecommunications, sales, and promotions with a minor in hospitality and a focus in event management.
So were you basically partying in college, or were you still trying to pursue this theater thing too?
I was partying. I didn't drink alcohol. I didn't get drunk until I was 20.
Dear Lord.
I know.
So what were you doing? Drugs? Nothing? Or
nothing. I was just raw dogging life. Just really just like just going through it. But I got drunk on accident the first time.
What does that mean?
I was having a party at my apartment. This was like my sophomore year of college. And everybody...
Where'd you go to college, by the way?
Ball State University.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Muncie. Okay.
Muncie, Indiana. David Letterman went there. And I remember I was having a party and everybody was drinking, but I'm like, I was like, I'm not going to drink till my 21st birthday because that's what Jesus want me to do. And
yeah, Jesus made the laws.
Yeah, Jesus did make the laws of the land, in Indiana at least. And so I remember I would try people's drinks because my parents would like let me try their beer or their wine. So I remember I just kept trying everyone's drinks, and I tried too many, and I just got drunk. And then after that, I was like, well, I guess I don't have to stop now. So then I started like drinking after that.
I'm 21 somewhere. Yeah. Like, did you? So what were you doing? Were you a night owl when you were in high school then? Were you like staying up late?
Yeah, like I've always kind of just leaned that way. Like I just like watching TV, or just, you know, I didn't really have a cell phone in high school. I had like a flip phone or something, so I couldn't like scroll.
Why didn't you have a cell phone? Your parents wouldn't get you one, or?
My parents didn't give me a cell phone for the longest time. I didn't get a smartphone until college.
You're watching TV late at night, sober.
Yeah, just
no vices whatsoever.
No, I'm trying to like, yeah, it just was like a lot of
cigarettes,
TV,
chewing tobacco.
I watched a lot of Gilmore Girls. Like that was.
You kind of look like the mom on Gilmore Girls.
Lorelai.
Yeah.
That's the greatest compliment you could ever give me.
Yeah, I can see it. So that's all you did? You're a boring kid in high school.
I really
no sports.
I played tennis. I would just like hang out with my friends, go to youth group, and like watch movies, and then like occasionally we would like drive around. We would like make music videos like on like our camcorder. Like I was so, looking back, I'm like, I was like such a wholesome child. Like my parents were so glad that like I didn't even know that parties were happening in high school because I was never invited to them. Yeah. I'm like, I learned later. I was like, you guys were going to parties like where there's alcohol? I'm like, why wasn't I invited? And I'm like, well, look in the mirror, girl. Like,
but weren't your friends? They were all outsiders too then?
Yeah, we just like, I had a small group of friends, and we all were just super goody two shoes who just like hanging out and driving around. I worked at Family Video, like.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So college, you don't drink until sophomore year by accident. What are you doing at nights? in Ball State. There's not a lot to do after 10 there.
There's every chain restaurant you could possibly imagine in Muncie, Indiana. But the majority of my college career that I remember is just like hanging out with my improv group. And yeah, I know, college improv.
So heavy, like just dealing with the energies.
I know. I actually went back recently. They have like this college improv festival every year, and they asked me to come teach workshops, and I did stand up there. And I just remember watching them and being like, they're so into it.
Yeah.
And then just like they're watching their friends do scenes, and the scenes are like fine, but they're just like reacting so emotionally to it, and I loved it because I'm like, man, I was just like you guys, just obsessed with it, and it was fun to kind of like go back on the other side and be like, because they see, oh, you're a comedian in Chicago, you were on an IO team, like they'd look at you like a god, and I'm like, it's not that hard.
You were an IO team here?
Mm-hmm. I was on a Herald team before the pandemic, and then I'm on a team there now too.
Oh, cool. Okay. Mm-hmm. See, I was in the conservatory at Second City, and I did IO levels, but I never wanted to be in Herald team because they get mad there. IO is very cliquey. And I started improv later in life. So they would be like, come hang out. I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything in common with the people in my classes. They were like 10 years younger than me and a little different. I come from like, I'm pretty good at improv, but I'm also like more straight man type thing. I don't do goofy things. And it just was like, I don't have anything to talk to you guys about. And then they'd be like, you get to go to all the shows free. I'm like, that's okay. I'm gonna.
That's how I feel like now.
Well, now you're probably more obsessed with stand up, I assume, based on your schedule.
My shows at IO we have a slot at 10 p.m. on Fridays, which is always fun. I really like my team, but I remember like pre-pandemic when I was just doing improv, like I was in it, and then after the pandemic is when I started doing stand up, and that's like kind of where that's where I put my priorities now. Sure. Like if I have like a show, I'm going to do a stand-up show over my improv show. But I also think now I'm a way better improviser now because I just like don't care as much.
And I think that's good because like when you're intense, like you were talking about going to those kids in college, you're like so into it. That's like ends up being really bad improv sometimes where they're just like too quick for the audience. You know, it's fun for you to be like, oh, that's clever what you did here. But the audience is just... I just feel like bad improv is really bad.
Excuse me. Sorry. I just took a sip of my Diet Coke.
And then I feel like at least with the stand-up show, if you don't like one comic, especially if it's a showcase, you're going to find someone that you like.
Yeah. Bad improv. I remember I used to be able to like watch any improv and find like the beauty in it. But now like watching bad improv, I'm like, I need to leave the building right now. Like, but so good bad. Improv, like amazing improv is like magical to watch.
Amazing improv is better than any stand-up show. And I was fortunate enough to be at the Second City when like Sam Richardson was on the main stage, Tim Robinson, all those guys, Chris Wisaki were all main stagers, and I'd see them. We got to hang out afterwards. It was like amazing experiences. But yeah, then I also got to see a lot of shows of people that just were like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, it can be a tough watch sometimes.
But do you still hang out? Like, let's say your Herald team ends at 10 o'clock. And for those of you who don't, improv has Herald teams. It's like a whole thing. Google it. We're not going to explain it right now. We don't have time for that shit. But after your show on a 10 o'clock Friday, what are you doing now?
Usually I'll hang out for a little bit, but like, I don't know, like I don't know as many people at IO as I used to. And like, I'll talk to like my group and like anybody that I recognize there, like I'll chat for a little bit, but most of the time I either head to a stand-up show, like a late night one, or I head home. But yeah, it's, I still enjoy it and love like going. And my team is very funny. I'm like, if I didn't have like a good team, I probably would have left.
So then let's say a typical weekend, you do improv, then you go do a stand-up show late. What are you doing after a show?
I will probably either go out with, if anyone's going out. Yeah. I'll have some beverages. I don't drink as much as I used to, but I still like going out and having fun. Like if there's a good hang happening, then like.
Okay.
I'm always down for a good hang.
Well, you say as much as you used to. You're not talking about sophomore year when you accidentally got drunk. So between that and now, there was a time where you were like a drunk.
I wouldn't say I was a drunk. I would say I was in college and I drank the like appropriate amount
after 21, of course.
After 21, and so I would drink like a lot in college, just like because it's
That's
your first time,
and it's Indiana.
Yeah, exactly. Like, really, what else is there to do? And then after college, like my young 20s, like had my first job. I remember I would go out with coworkers. I would drink a lot more back then, but also like now that I'm older and it hits me harder. So if I'm drinking, it has to be like worth it.
Wait till you hit your 40s. After a show, you'll drink a little bit. You'll go to a good hang. Mm-hmm. What constitutes a good hang in Katie's world?
Just like the people that you enjoy hanging out with that are funny, and you're just like in a bar, just sitting around and chatting. Like I just like hanging out with my friends.
Are most of your friends stand-up comedians now?
In Chicago, pretty much all of my like good friends are either stand-ups or like some improv people that I'm friends with. I do have like normal friends that live in other states that I talk to a lot.
Still in touch with them? Mm-hmm. Have you missed a lot of stuff because you're a night owl or because you're doing stand-up? Like you miss your friends like birthdays and shit? And I
would say like I've missed stuff because of like having shows or something and not wanting to like drive all the way back to Indiana. I think sometimes it's funny talking to like my family or people I grew up with, or like maybe my friends, my close friends that I have that don't do comedy because you probably experience this too, where they're just like, how do you just go to your job and you're able to go out and do a show or a mic, and you're just like, how are you able to have the energy for it? And so a lot of times like they'll comment on that. I don't know, like once you're kind of in it, like once it's like a routine, like it doesn't really faze me to like, go to my job and then essentially go to like the second job, which is comedy. You
still have a day job too now? Mm-hmm. How are you balancing that with your schedule with comedy, especially now?
I'm very lucky where it's kind of like a 9 to 5 type of deal. I get to work from home 2 days a week, which is nice.
Okay.
And it's pretty flexible. Like everyone that I work with is like in New York or LA. And I work in like production, like on a commercial side. So
cool. So it's kind of creative.
Yeah. And then I get to like, it's gotten me to go to like LA, and then when I'm out there, I get to like do shows. So it's as far as day jobs go. Yeah,
it pays for your time.
Great.
That's a perfect setup. I don't. A few comedians have that too, and then I used to do that when I would travel for work when I had a job. But so now going back to what constitutes a good hang, you're hanging out with other stand-up comedians. Are you guys at the point? How long have you been doing stand-up now?
A little less than 3 years.
Oh wow, that's awesome. You're so ahead of what I thought it was. I thought you'd been doing it longer.
Oh, thank you.
So you're still at the level, I assume, where everybody that's you're hanging out with is still trying to do bits and be funny after a show, I assume.
Sometimes I think it's like it depends. A lot of it can go either way. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, like people are doing bits. It
gets better.
Yeah.
After like year 5, you stop doing that, or people stop doing it. You hope. Some people still do it at 20 years in.
You just talk about your grocery lists and.
No, you just talk about just like funny shit that it's more different, but like it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for people after a show to like turn it off.
I will say I deal with more like people having bits with my improv people.
Yeah.
Like that's like another level.
That's gotta be overbearing. Yeah,
it can be sometimes, but they're all like wonderful people, and everyone in improv is like a sweetheart for the most part.
But after your shows, you're still kind of wired up, and if you don't have to wake up the next day, what are you doing? You have a good hang, you're having a drink, you're not getting too intoxicated. Are you creative in that space, or are you just like chilling out now? You did your work and now you're just relaxing, or is your mind still like, some people are very creative after shows, not me, but some people go write and shit like that. You don't do that stuff, do you?
Sometimes I have done that, but usually like if I'm getting home, I get home and I immediately just want to get in like my pajamas, and I want to do my skincare routine that I'm religious about. and then I just scroll on my phone. That's like what really gets me to stay up a little too long. It's just, just fucking.
What are you watching? TikTok videos?
TikTok videos and just stuff. I'm like, and then the little ad that says you've been watching this for too long comes up, and I'm like, you're right. I need to go to bed.
That's amazing. When are you creative? When are you doing your writing and your roast writing?
So my son cliche, but a lot of times like when I'm in the shower, because I feel like that's
the best time for a lot of people.
Distracted.
Yeah.
And like I'm like the type of writer where like I talk to myself and I kind of like talk out the bit.
Loud?
Yeah. Trying to perform it as if I would perform it, and then I try to like write a bullet list of what I was talking about, and then cut it from there and try it on stage and see if it bombs or does well. You
go back to your high school acting years and what you learn in voices.
Yeah.
And you're like,
we zip zap stop.
Yeah, you got it. What your teacher taught you and made you director of. When you're writing your stuff, are you recording all your sets and watching them, listening to them to see like?
I always audio record.
Yeah.
And then if I need to be better about video recording. I do a lot of stuff with Laugh Factory and they videotape, which is nice.
If you don't have to wake up, how late are you staying up these days?
I mean, I never go to bed before midnight.
When you don't have to wake up at 9, are you still waking up at 9? I'm
usually always awake by like 8 a.m. 8 and
just
or 9.
Automatically.
If I'm up to like 3, then I usually then it's 9 or 10.
Wow. You don't need sleep?
No, I do. I just
so how do you make up for it if by Friday, if you're doing if you got all these shows and you're going to be getting more shows soon, I'm assuming, unless you get canceled for anything you do here. Yeah, no, if that's the case, and you still have your 9 to 5s, like how are you going to make up your hours?
I fall asleep when I fall asleep and I wake up when I wake up. I definitely need to sleep more than what I do, but yeah, I don't ever have it in my brain that I need to make it up.
Are there times where you're like out on a hang or whatever and you're just like, man, I should have just gone home at like 11?
Oh yeah.
Have you had situations recently that you can talk about where you're like, this is why it's not good to be awake right now?
I had an instance recently where there was someone who was in town and he like wanted to go out and like see all the hangs after shows.
Someone from Indiana?
No, he was a comic that was in from out of town, and I'm glad. Like, I definitely am glad that we went out. Like, it was. I usually don't like hop around. That we were like at Laugh Factory, then we went to Zany's, and like
checking out all the comics.
Yeah,
sets,
and like I had a really good time. I'm glad like we did go out, but I remember being like, damn, this is a long night.
It's hard to go. Well, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to go out. I don't drink anymore, so it's a lot harder for me to like have tolerance for things that are not fun. And when I get to a certain level, I'm just like, I'm really good about being like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah.
I don't know if are you at that level yet where you can do that, or you feel bad leaving your friends and stuff?
I feel like I can leave. I don't ever feel like I have to stay. Like I only will ever stay if it's like I'm having a good time. Yeah. But for the most part, no one's really ever been like, no, please, you can't leave. But yeah. So I feel like for the most part, I leave when I'm like, okay, I'm done.
What about after shows? Are you do you ever go out with people in the audience? Whether
people
it's like crowd, like they're like, hey, we're going to this thing. Have you done that?
I've had audience members come up and like ask like, hey, can we hang out? But last time that happened, I've had like obviously people that come up and try to like ask you out like on a date.
Oh, right. But I don't mean just ask you out, but I mean going out with them. But But
I've had the last time I had somebody like people who were just like, come hang out with us. It was me and So Rob.
Oh yeah.
We did a show.
Fellow Iranian.
Yes. We did a show at a LA Fitness. No, was it? Yeah, I was like, I think not an LA Fitness. It was some fitness place where they had like a bar attached to it. So we did the show there. And then afterwards, it was like in some like suburb, and they were like, come out to the bar with us. And we had like an hour drive back. I think So Rob would have probably been down, but on the inside, I think we're like, yeah, it's probably best to end our relationship with the audience here.
So you didn't do it. That was smart.
No.
You've had people ask you out though?
I've never like had hung out with an audience member after a show. And there's been people who've like come up and been like, hey.
After show or DM you?
DMs. And only women though. I've never had a man come up to me.
Well, do you say you're bisexual on stage, or do you say you're I think you say we did a show last night or 2 nights ago. I think you did. I think you say queer, right?
Yeah, like I say queer, gay, bisexual too.
Don't say bisexual. You'll have 80 dudes hitting you up in the fucking DMs.
What's crazy is like, because I do have jokes about bisexuality, but I've never had a man come up to me after a show. I've only had
But you don't want that.
No, I don't know.
I'm just making sure we say that part because
no.
I'll go
Stay away from me.
At my DMs. Yeah.
But like I've had like people find me on Instagram.
From the roast or from shows or both?
Both.
I feel like you're going to get a lot of work where guys will just be like, I want to hire you for a party and I just want you to just destroy me for 2 hours. Here's everything you need to know.
It's like, okay, is that your kink? If
yeah,
so,
I mean, not just kink, but like just,
me.
I'll get work to do stand-up shows. And like, would you be able to write some stuff about the birthday boy? I'm like, no. I'll just say no right away. And then I'll be like, there's a comedian I work with. I'll have him host and he'll do it. But I'm not going to fucking spend an hour to talk about Bob's fucking 40th birthday.
I think I forgot. I did that once. I did a roast of someone's birthday. They were
like, well, you probably like it because you like writing shit like that.
It was fine. It was kind of odd because I obviously didn't know this woman, but she rented out the Red Room for her birthday. And she was the one who wanted to do like a roast. So she had some of her friends and family write roasts, and then she had we comedians, like we did a set and then we also roasted her. And I kept it very like light and fun, like not going as hard as you would go in like a roast battle.
Sure. Did you make her cry?
No, it was just kind of light fun stuff. Yeah.
Have you ever made anyone cry? From stand-up or otherwise?
Everyone's made someone cry, but I think there's only one. I did hear somebody that did cry after one of our roast battles, and I felt really, really bad about it.
Because of someone you roasted?
Yeah.
Oh, you should feel bad.
I know. But I also think, like, I think she was going through a tough time, and I think she was also sad she lost. It was like one of my first, like, roast battles. At least that's what I heard. I'm not sure. Like, she's a nice girl, but I did, like, someone said that she was upset afterwards. And I was like, oh my God, I hope she knows it was all like jokes. She also called me terrible things.
Right. I know a couple of my friends are like, let's do it. I'm like, no, you will be I know what you're going to say and it's not fun. And then I think Kevin hit me up. He's like, hey, I go, every time you message me, does that mean someone just asked for me? He goes, yeah. I go, that's what I thought.
I go, Kevin Kellum.
Yeah. I'm like, why don't I just want to judge it. I don't want to.
Everybody wants to be on panel. Everybody. That's the most fun part.
That. That's the most fun. But I wouldn't, I don't think I can take it. I'm too thin-skinned when it comes to like, I know there's so many things to make fun of me for, but are there any late night hangs you like here in Chicago that you go to other than the clubs? Do you go anywhere outside the comedy clubs?
Oh, like the Golden Apple.
That's my spot.
Oh, really?
How come I've never seen it? You know my picture's on the wall when you walk in.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Peter. Yeah, I was there last night.
Oh my God, I had to look for it. I love the Golden Apple.
Just say, where's Paul's picture? He'll tell you.
All right.
Peter's the guy at the door. That's funny. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know. I've never seen. Oh, no, that's not true. I've seen some comedians there, but I'm there all the time.
Yeah. Did you hear about the NPR episode on it?
It's not the NPR. You're talking about the American.
Oh, This American Life. Yes.
This American. Yeah, that's from 2000. Mm-hmm. It's a different world back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I took a comedian there recently from out of town, and he was like, this is the best.
Yeah.
If they had that every city, I would love traveling. But unfortunately, like when you go to like Iowa or Indiana, like they don't have a 24-hour diner.
No,
did you have one in Lebanon?
No, it was like.
Or Muncie does. They have like a pancake place, right?
I'm pretty sure. Is IHOP 24 hours?
It is sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They had
an IHOP.
Something like that. The 24-hour diners is either in the middle of nowhere or it's like in a city.
Yeah.
There's no
after COVID, a lot of them went away too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the ones in the suburbs. In Chicago, used to have a bunch in the suburbs, but now they're like all gone.
There's a Diner Grill on Irving Park.
Yeah.
It's just like a counter.
That's a legendary spot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they serve Pepsi. I like Diet Coke.
Same. It's always a travesty when someone says we have Pepsi products. I'm like, well,
me and
all right,
good friend Jim Flanagan, we eat after shows, and I know all the places I'm like, oh, that's such a good place, but they have Pepsi products, so we can't go.
I would say that I go to Golden Apple more than I would go to like a bar after a show.
I go to Golden Apple. I've been there twice this week already.
What's your order?
I change it up, but I always get breakfast food when it's an option. Mm-hmm. But lately I've been doing the chicken kebabs are really good there. Ooh. Shout out to their chef. And their salad's really good too. They have really good salads. What's your order?
It changes, but I get a lot of sandwiches there. Their breakfast food I think is the best thing.
We are out of time, Katie.
I went by so fast.
I'm sorry we kept you late. Katie, where can people find out more about your upcoming shows and events?
I post all my shows and everything on my Instagram, which is at Katie, Katie, J Kincaid, Kincaid.
Splendid. Well, Katie, thanks for doing the podcast. I'm excited to get to know more about you, and I'm excited to see you keep growing. I'm very impressed with what you've done so far with comedy.
Thank you.
Don't forget us little people when you get huge. Thank you for watching or listening to another edition of Why Are You Awake? Now go to sleep.
Bye.